Imagine you're traveling around the world with a single US dollar in your pocket. In India, it can be exchanged for over 90 rupees. In the United Kingdom, that same dollar turns into less than 1 British pound. In some countries, it can turn into thousands of units of local currency. But in others, $1 might be worth less than a single unit of their currency. This raises an interesting question. Why does every country have a different currency value? Why isn't $1 equal to €1, €1, €1 and every other currency? And why do some currencies seem powerful while others seem weak? The answer is much more fascinating than you might think. Let's find out. The biggest misunderstanding about currency value. When people compare currencies, they often look at the numbers. For example, $1 equals 18 plus Mexican pesos, $1 equals 150 plus Japanese yen, $1 equals less than 1 Kuwaiti dinar. Looking at this, many people assume that countries with bigger numbers have weaker economies. But that's not necessarily true. Imagine I give you one pizza. Now I cut that pizza into 8 slices. You have 8 pieces. Then I cut another pizza into 16 smaller slices. Now you have 16 pieces. Which pizza is bigger? Neither. They're exactly the same size. The only difference is how they're divided. Currencies work similarly. A country can decide how many units make up its currency. The number itself doesn't determine wealth. What matters is purchasing power. In other words, how much can that money actually buy? Economists actually have a name for this idea. It's called purchasing power parity, or PPP. It's the concept that compares currencies based on what they can actually buy, not just the number on the exchange rate. That's what really counts. What determines currency value? At its core, currency is just another product. And like every product on Earth, its value depends on one thing: supply and demand. Think about concert tickets. If thousands of people want tickets but only a few are available, prices rise. But if nobody wants the tickets, prices fall. Currencies behave the same way. When lots of people want a country's currency, its value increases. When fewer people want it, its value decreases. But why would anyone want another country's currency? There are several reasons, and understanding them will explain why currency values differ. Reason number 1, international trade. Imagine a country that produces something the world desperately wants, like oil. When other countries buy it, they usually need the seller's currency. That creates demand, which pushes its value higher. This is actually one reason the Gulf nations, like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, have historically had strong currencies. The world constantly needs to buy their oil, and that means constantly needing their money. Now, imagine another country that imports far more than it exports. Its citizens constantly need foreign currencies to buy products from abroad, which can reduce demand for the local currency and weaken its value. Countries that export lots of valuable products often have stronger currencies, because the world constantly needs their money to buy those goods. Trade is one of the biggest forces affecting currency values. Reason number 2, economic strength. Let's say you're an investor with $1 million. Would you rather invest in a country with a stable government, growing businesses, modern infrastructure, and a strong economy, or one experiencing economic chaos? Most investors choose stability. To invest in a country, they usually need that country's currency. As more investors buy it, demand rises, and that often makes the currency stronger. This is why countries with healthy economies tend to have stronger currencies. People trust them, and trust is incredibly important in finance. Reason number 3, inflation. Now let's talk about one of the most important factors, inflation. Inflation means prices rise over time. You've probably noticed this yourself. A burger that cost $2 a few years ago might cost $4 today. The burger didn't suddenly become twice as good. The value of money changed. What causes inflation? One major reason is when too much money enters the economy. Imagine a small town with 100 people, 100 apples, and $1,000 total money. Each apple might cost $10. Now, what happens if everyone suddenly gets extra money and the town has $2,000? There are still only 100 apples. More money is chasing the same number of goods. So sellers raise prices. Maybe each apple now costs $20. The apples didn't change. The money became less valuable. When inflation gets very high, a currency loses purchasing power, and over time this can reduce its value compared to other currencies. But here's where things get really wild. The extreme example: hyperinflation. Sometimes inflation becomes completely out of control. This is called hyperinflation. Take Zimbabwe in 2008. At the peak of its crisis, prices were doubling roughly every 24 hours. A loaf of bread that cost a few thousand Zimbabwean dollars in the morning could cost double that by evening. It's happened many times in history. Germany in the 1920s saw something similar. Prices rose so fast that people were paid twice a day because their morning wages would be worth noticeably less by the afternoon. In severe cases, people needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy basic groceries. The currency becomes so abundant that nobody trusts it anymore. When trust disappears, currency value can collapse. One reason some countries have very weak currencies today. Reason number 4. Interest rates. Now here's something many people don't realize. Central banks influence currency values too. A central bank controls interest rates, which affect how attractive a country is to investors. Japan has kept interest rates extremely low for years, while the US has kept rates much higher. That gap alone pushed many investors to move money out of yen and into dollars, because why hold money earning almost nothing when it could earn more elsewhere? To do that, they must buy the other country's currency. More buyers create more demand, and more demand often strengthens that currency. This is why financial markets closely watch central bank decisions. A small change in interest rates can move billions of dollars around the world. Reason number 5. Government stability. Money is based largely on trust. A modern currency isn't valuable because it's made from special paper. It's valuable because people believe others will accept it tomorrow. That belief depends heavily on confidence in the government and economy. Turkey is a good real-world example. In recent years, concerns about political interference in the central bank, along with runaway inflation, have caused the Turkish lira to lose significant value against the dollar. If investors think a country is politically unstable, they move their money elsewhere. Demand falls, and its value can decline. On the other hand, stable governments often attract investment and strengthen confidence in their currency. Switzerland is a classic example. Its long history of political neutrality is a big reason the Swiss franc is considered one of the world's safest currencies. Trust may sound invisible, but it has enormous economic power. Why is the US dollar so powerful? You might be wondering, why does everyone talk about the US dollar? The answer is simple. The dollar became the world's dominant reserve currency. Governments, banks, and businesses around the globe hold large amounts of dollars, and many international transactions, including oil and commodities, rely on it. Because so many people need dollars, demand stays extremely high, and that helps support its value. It's similar to how a famous brand remains popular because everyone already uses it. The more people trust it, the stronger it becomes. Here's a surprising fact. A stronger currency isn't always good, and a weaker currency isn't always bad. Imagine a company that sells shoes internationally. If its home currency becomes very strong, foreign customers must spend more to buy those shoes. They get expensive, and sales might fall. Now imagine a competitor operating with a weaker currency. Its shoes become cheaper for foreign buyers, more people purchase them, exports increase, and businesses and jobs grow. This is why governments don't always want the strongest possible currency. There's a balance. Too weak is bad, but too strong can also create problems. At this point, you might ask, why don't all countries just use one global currency? Because every country has different economic conditions. Some economies grow quickly, others slowly. Some face inflation, others don't. Each country needs control over its own monetary policy, its interest rates, money supply, and economic decisions. And a single global currency would remove that flexibility. The most important lesson. When people compare currencies, they often focus on exchange rates. But exchange rates alone don't tell the full story. A currency worth less than the dollar isn't automatically bad, and one worth more isn't automatically good. The real questions are, how much can people buy with that money? How stable is the economy? How much inflation exists? How much trust do investors have? How strong is international demand? These factors matter far more than the number itself, because every country is different, different economies, inflation levels, governments, trade relationships, interest rates, and levels of global trust. Supply and demand for each currency plays out differently, and that ultimately determines its value. So the next time someone says, $1 equals 18 pesos, so the dollar must be better, you'll know the truth. Currency value is a reflection of an entire economy, not a simple number. If you enjoy learning complex topics through simple sketches and easy-to-understand explanations, subscribe and join us for the next video.